Welcome to the Widows Collective, where grief meets hope, healing, and community. I'm Lauren Lentz, grief coach, fellow widow, and the heart behind this space. There is life before loss, and then there is life after. If you're here, it likely means your life has been turned upside down by the death of your person. Maybe you've just found yourself in this new world that feels unrecognizable, or maybe you've been walking it for a while, trying to figure out what healing looks like now. I want you to know you are not alone. This podcast is a gathering place for widows living in the after. Together, we'll name the ache, honor the love, and share tools, truths, and stories that help you feel supported along the way. My hope is that every episode gives you a sense of community, comfort, and permission to meet yourself exactly where you are. Hello, and welcome back to episode 15, when you don't know what you need and why that's okay. Today, I want to talk about something that comes up for many people in grief, especially in the early days when everything still feels upside down. Let me first paint the picture. Your person dies, sometimes suddenly, sometimes after a long goodbye, and in those first days or weeks, people show up. A lot of people. They're well-meaning. They're heartbroken for you. They want to help. They want to take some of the weight you're carrying and hold it for you, even briefly. So they ask, "What do you need? How can I support you?" And suddenly, you freeze. Your mind goes blank, or you think the list is endless, or it will take more energy to explain than just to do it myself. Maybe you notice yourself tightening because tasks feel fragile and letting someone else take them on feels risky. Maybe control feels like the only thing keeping you upright right now, or maybe you feel that familiar pressure rise in your chest because the truth is you genuinely don't know. You don't know what would help. You don't know what could make this feel even 1% lighter. And you may quietly wonder if something is wrong with you for not having an answer. You might feel guilt for pushing people away, or frustration that others don't just know what to do, or even shame for feeling overwhelmed by help that's supposed to feel supportive. So if it's ever been your experience, I want to say this compassionately and clearly: there is nothing wrong with you. Not knowing what you need in grief is common. It's not a character flaw. And yes, sometimes it can look like emotional shutdown. Sometimes it can be difficulty receiving support, or it can be pulling inward or needing control or not feeling safe enough yet to let others step in. But even then, it's not a problem to fix. It's protection. Early grief often places us in a state of shock and survival. Your nervous system is focused on one primary job: getting you through the day. When that's the case, the parts of the brain responsible for clarity, planning, prioritizing, and translating internal overwhelm into clear requests can often go offline for a while. So when someone asks, "What can I do? How can I help?" and your mind goes completely blank, or you just don't have an answer, that makes sense. And when you default to, "I'm fine, I've got it," not because you're actually fine, but because it feels simpler or safer or more contained, that's normal too. Grief doesn't just take your person. It can temporarily take your access to language, capacity, clarity, and a sense of safety in relying on others. And I want to pause here because it's important to recognize not knowing what you need doesn't mean you don't deserve support. Needing control right now does not mean you're a bad person who won't let people in. Struggling to receive help does not mean you're ungrateful or broken. It simply means your system is overloaded and doesn't know what it needs next. In the rest of this episode, I want to explore a few things together. First, why not knowing what you need is such a common experience in grief, both emotionally and within the body, and what's actually happening when your system feels blank or overwhelmed. Then I want to talk about why support can be more complex than it looks. And finally, spend some time with what support can look like when it needs to be smaller or slower or simply different than what's being offered, so that it meets you where you actually are right now. There's no right way to do this, just space to understand what's happening and to soften toward yourself in it. One of the things that makes this so hard is that support isn't universal. What feels comforting to one person might feel intrusive to another. What feels grounding one day might feel overwhelming the next. Some people want company, others need quiet. Some want to talk about their person constantly, others can't yet find words. None of this is right or wrong. Grief doesn't come with a preset list of needs, and neither do people. We all come into loss with different personalities, histories, boundaries, and nervous systems. So when support doesn't land the way it's intended, it doesn't mean anyone failed. It usually means the fit wasn't quite right in that moment. This is where grace matters on both sides. Grace for the people who are trying to help but don't always know how, and grace for the griever who is doing their best to survive something that already feels unimaginable. Sometimes support requires a little trial and error. Sometimes it takes time to learn what helps and what doesn't. And sometimes the only thing you know is what doesn't feel good yet. That's still information. Something I want to name here is how easy it can be on both sides to start pulling away when support doesn't land quite right. Grievers may pull back because it feels safer or less disappointing. Supporters may pull back because they're afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing or being intrusive. And while that makes sense, this is often the moment when staying connected matters most. Not in big, expansive ways, not by forcing closeness or fixing anything, but by continuing to show up in small, imperfect, human ways, even when it feels a little uncomfortable or unclear. You don't have to get it right. We're all doing this dance. It's all new to us. You don't have to know exactly what helps. Sometimes it's just staying present, checking in, offering something, trying again, creates more safety than disappearing does. So if this part feels awkward or uncertain, know that it's okay. You're doing something you haven't done before, and that can feel uncomfortable or even scary. That effort on both sides matters far more than getting it perfect. There's another layer here that needs to be mentioned. You can want support and still not know how to let it in. You can crave emotional connection and not feel safe enough yet to open. You can want help and still feel overwhelmed when it's offered, especially if you're used to being the strong one, quote unquote. If your person was your primary safe place. If grief has made your system more guarded. In those moments, control can feel like safety. Distance can feel like protection. And saying I've got it can feel easier than explaining what you don't yet understand yourself. This doesn't mean you don't want support. It means that you're just moving more slowly, more carefully. Sometimes the support that helps most, at first at least, isn't deep conversations or big gestures. Sometimes it's low pressure presence, predictable check-ins, offers that don't require decisions. And sometimes it's simply being allowed to say, I don't know what I need yet, without being rushed toward an answer. Sometimes the problem isn't that you don't want support or aren't open to it, but that the version of support being offered is too big, too fast, or too undefined for where you are right now. Early grief often needs support that's smaller, slower, more contained. Support that doesn't ask you to open everything, support that doesn't require you to explain your inner world, support that doesn't assume you're ready to receive in the same ways you once did. This might look like one person instead of many, short check-ins instead of long conversations, sitting quietly instead of talking, help that's practical rather than emotional, or emotional rather than practical. It might also look like choosing who feels safest, not who is closest, or letting support come from unexpected places, someone outside of your inner circle, a professional space, a container where you don't have to manage anyone else's feelings. And it might look like pulling back for a while, not because you don't care, but because your system is asking for less input. This is where it's important to say you are allowed to redefine what support looks like right now. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to need something different than what others expect. Grief changes the shape of what feels tolerable. And honoring that is not selfish, it's wise. One of the quiet traps of grief is believing it's something you're supposed to manage well. That if you could just articulate your needs or accept support the quote unquote right way or move through this more gracefully, it would hurt less. We live in a culture that asks for clarity quickly, but grief doesn't work on demand. Grief isn't a problem to solve. It's a relationship you're learning to live inside. And relationships don't offer instant clarity or a promise to take away pain. They unfold over time. You learn to trust them more and more as the days pass by. Needs don't arrive fully formed in grief. They emerge slowly as your system begins to stabilize in a world that has fundamentally changed for you. So if you're listening and thinking, I still don't know what I need, that doesn't mean you're stuck. It often means you're still really early. Early grief is about surviving the rupture. It's about getting through the days, the moments, the shock of what has happened. Later grief is where discernment begins. That's where language slowly returns. That's where preferences start to reappear. It's where you begin to notice this helps or this doesn't. And that shift doesn't happen because you try harder. It happens because your body feels safer over time. So instead of asking yourself, when will I know what I need? You might gently offer, I'm not there yet, and that's okay. Trust that clarity will come, but it doesn't need to come today. If there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, it's this. Not knowing what you need doesn't mean there's something wrong with you or your grief. It means your body and mind are still trying to catch up and process what has happened to you. Your needs may come into focus slowly. They may change often, and some days the only honest answer may be, I don't know. That's not failure. That's your body and your mind asking for time. So if you're listening today and finding yourself in that place, uncertain, unsure, overwhelmed, please know this. You don't need clarity to be worthy of support. You don't need the right words to be held with care, and you don't need to have it all figured out. Grief isn't asking you to know what you need. It's asking you to stay in this moment, one breath at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And most of all, thank you for continuing even in the not knowing. And for those of you who are looking for a little additional support and guidance during this time, my self-guided program Through the Fog will open this coming Monday. There is no pressure, but if you feel called, you can find more information at laurenlentz.com under the Through the Fog tab and sign up on the waitlist to be the first to know when you can purchase. Until next time, lots of love and big hugs. You've been listening to the Widows Collective. I'm Lauren Lentz, and it means so much to me that you spent this time here today. If you found comfort or connection in today's episode, I invite you to please subscribe, leave a rating, or share it with someone who might need a little support. You can also follow me on Instagram at I'm Sorry We're Friends and join my email list at laurenlentz.com to explore my one-to-one grief coaching, group program, retreats, and other tools designed to help widows navigate loss with understanding and guidance. I hope you'll join me next week for another conversation where we'll continue exploring grief, healing, and ways to reimagine life after loss. I'm sorry you're here, and I'm so grateful that you are. Thank you for being a part of this community. Your presence is an act of courage and self-compassion, and I'm honored to walk this path alongside you.